On to round 4 in the 4th most important competition on Aston Villa's priority list. I mean, look at me, I didn't even shave for this show. Not a thrilling watch, a chance to win silverware, no doubt, and a chance to bet in some high potential young players from the academy. Can you do both? Well, not the whole way. But this was a great example of Aston Villa thinking bigger, much bigger as a club. And on this occasion, on the outskirts of London, they got away with it. Presented by 24/7 Services, let's review Wycombe Wanderers 1, Aston Villa 2. Welcome inside the parlor, which ironically is just an 11-minute walk in that direction to the home of a former Wycombe Wanderers captain, Mark Rogers. Mark was a walk-on trialist from the local area here who literally fought his way onto the team before becoming captain, and then between 98 and 2003 made about 140 appearances. Just goes to show how small the football world really is. This is Mark winning a Subudio tournament that I hosted in this room back in 2016. Awful day. You know, imagine hosting a tournament and somebody else coming along and taking the trophy away. And if you're younger, Subudio is a game that was played between two human beings, live and in person, and they actually had to have the dexterity to flick little men around the table. Oh, by the way, if you've ever wondered what it's like living in suburban British Columbia, Canada, here's a neighborhood family of raccoons destroying my backyard as they search for grubs, which is beetle larvae. Now, I'm not saying this was Villa Park-like quality lawn, but there won't be any finals played back here anytime soon. This looks more like a 70s pitch now. All in all, Tuesday was a pretty cool day because I managed to weasel my way onto Daz Hale's football phone-in on BBC West Midlands thanks to Bernie Short, who works at the BBC. Her very clever husband is a viewer of this program, so one thing led to another, and
Hiya Pete, it's Daz Hale at BBC Radio WM. We speak again. Fabulous that you were on the football phone-in the other night, and I mean, lots of people got in touch saying how great it was to hear from you. So obviously we need to talk again. So hopefully you'll come on the phone in again. And then the next time you come across to Villa Park, you can be guest of honour here in the studio. In the meantime, you can always listen to the football phone in on the BBC Sounds app. So it's BBC Radio WM and it's 6 p.m. every weekday evening. And I love your podcast as well. So I'll see you soon, mate.
Now, if only the game could have been as thrilling as chatting with Daz. I know Unai Emery loves to control a game from start to finish, and we kind of did that. And he'll be gutted that we conceded late to give up the clean sheet. But cup football is about one thing: advancement. There are no style points. Welcome officially to the Holy Trinity show, where I attempt to dissect the 3 key issues or moments that defined Wycombe 1, Villa 2 in the EFL's Carabao Cup Round 3. We had a motley crew at Adams Park with both Owen Power and Pat Fowkes rolling video. These are Samir's soldiers, in case you didn't know. They had a great time in Buckinghamshire on Tuesday. It really is an idyllic and quaint ground, but it has been anything but friendly, Adams Park, over the years. They've been known to pull off some scalps on this patch. The statistical story is one of contrasts. We had overwhelming possession and a slightly better XG as the hosts, and our passing percentage was okay based on 559 passes. But I was surprised to see Wycombe credited with 4 big chances despite their lower XG, and I think Matt Bloomfield would have been annoyed that they didn't hit the target more once they were in range. And then when you look at clearances, you'd think we were the ones severely under the cosh, with 21 clearances to Wycombe's 10, which is probably a good strategy against a back line that averaged 20 years of age among the 4 of them. Significant milestone. Tuesday marked the 50th win for Unai Emery in all competitions since joining Aston Villa. And what's remarkable is he achieved those 50 wins in just 90 games, which puts him at the very top of our all-time list. Joe Mercer is next, but he started his tenure in 1958. Tony Barton and John Gregory are on that list. But think about the demands of today's Premier League compared with the top flights of yesteryear. Back then, they didn't have PSR issues. Players weren't paid hundreds of thousands per week, and transfer fees weren't in the tens of millions. I guess one could make the argument that you sort of had to do more with less back then, but then again, the playing field felt a little bit more level in terms of the value of clubs and their squads. You know, now the big clubs are inflating the cost of the game, and you have to be far more intelligent. And this is where our owner, Nassif Sawiris, comes in. He was at Adams Park. He was the one who has created with West Edens this environment where Unai Emery could flourish. Let's be more intelligent and let's give the keys to our kingdom to a guy who has had proven success. Major issue could have easily been top 3, but the squad selection. And you know what? I almost pretty much nailed it in my previous show, with one exception. I thought Diego Carlos would start in this game and play alongside Sil Swinkles, maybe Lamar Bogard at right back. Well, Carlos was injured in the warm-up. I mean, considering what this guy looks like shirtless, he really is made of glass, isn't he? Average age of that starting squad on Tuesday, 22.6 years of age. And the reason why that's significant is we had Ross Barkley playing, who's 30, and then Buendia and Bailey, who are both 27. So when you put all of that together, it's a risk. You are giving minutes and valuable game equity to players. This time it paid off because they progressed. Peculiar note, did Lamar Bogard change his name to the Dutch pronunciation of Lamar Bogarde without telling any of us? Because that's what our commentator was calling him on my feed. And he was part of a 3/4 Dutch back line. Maybe that's the reason why, as I mentioned previously, with an average age of 20 on the button. So when this lineup came out, you look at it, obviously that's the vulnerability, but credit to these guys, especially the center backs. A lot of poise, no panic, a lot of composure in chaos. Were there misplaced passes? Of course. Were there mistakes that led to chances? Yes, they got away with it, but still, critical confidence-boosting minutes for our two center backs at a crucial time in their careers. 20 years of age. You're not an academy kid anymore, and yet you're not quite a full men's professional player just yet. And Villa's build-up puts a lot of emphasis on patience and precise passing. Thankfully, they had Onana and Barkley centrally, and then Matson and Nedeljkovic wide, so they were insulated a little bit, which helped, but still. If you're a team looking from the outside in and seeing that, why would you not want to take one of those two players on loan at some point, maybe as early as January or even sooner? I did wonder at times watching this how guys like Ross Barkley and Leon Bailey and Emi Buendia felt about playing in a game like this with all these kids around them. I mean, does that feel like it's somehow an inconvenience or a demotion maybe? Or do they look at it the other way, like they are proud that they've been asked to be the spine and to mentor a group of very high potential young players from the academy? Major issue for me, and it's par for the course given the experience level of the team on Tuesday, but Villa's reluctance to play the ball forward, with one exception maybe 36 seconds in, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. And one of my complaints about academy football across the board is that sometimes kids are so desperate just to stay in that environment for as long as possible because it's a great environment, and as long as you're in it, you're on the path to pro, but there's risk aversion, there's safety. And the amount of times we looked off a forward pass to go sideways or backwards, it was really, really hard to watch. Again, I can't complain because it was an average age of 22.6 with Barkley, Buendia, and Bailey in it. So what can you say? But still, could you make a forward pass and take a chance now and again? I'm stuck between two minds on this competition. I want Villa to advance. I want silverware. I'd love to see us tonk a lower league team once and again. But I also am aware of how valuable game equity is to young players and how it actually improves the entire club and its value. I do get the sense, though, that this competition is a nuisance, not just for Aston Villa, but for other clubs, given how much football is played these days. And I do think the players can handle it. The problem is we are diminishing the competition. It is getting watered down, and therefore it's not as meaningful. And yet we're still asking traveling fans to pay up for tickets, for travel, pre-game pints, taking days off work, and then coming home in the middle of the night. Something's got to give here. On the subject of working late, 24/7 Services has been busier than, well, the raccoons in my backyard, for starters, because you've had some weather, I understand. A little bit of precipitation here and there, a little misting. So the reactive team has been busy, and I put the emergency numbers in the description of these videos, but you'll also find them on the website if you need. And 24/7 Services, Manchester and Liverpool, which aren't necessarily drier than the Midlands, so their calendar is almost as taxing as Villa's is right now. Here's a recent job from a Holy Trinity show viewer named James Hill in the royal town of Sutton Coldfield. Nice close-to-home job. James's garage, and porch roof looked a little bit disheveled, kind of like me after training in the pouring rain this evening. So he gets Jay and the crew over, fresh felt, new gutters, new downpipes, so the elements will now stay away from his home. And there are more rains coming, and there is nothing worse, and if you're a homeowner, you know this, there is nothing worse than the sound of dripping water in your house like into a bucket. Call 24/7 Services. They will either prevent or stop the dreaded drip. Big moment number 3, early exploits. And I'm speaking specifically of John Duran's goal-scoring chance. Big chance, 36 seconds into the game. And I just wonder if Big John had buried that one less than a minute in, how might that have impacted the game? Because it could have gone a couple of ways. Might that have given Villa the confidence to go forward more and be less risk-averse? Or might they have started the grinding the game to a halt even earlier by passing this game to death and not taking chances, and in doing so maybe invited more problems from Wycombe? We'll never know. But considering the form our chaotic Colombian is in, you would have banked on him slotting this one home, especially because it fell to his left foot, his preferred instrument of destruction. I guess the problem was that the chance just came too early because our Medellin marksman put this well wide. You know, normally he's used to scoring in the final 15 minutes of a game. Big moment number 2. Emmy's elevation. Emmy Buendia, captain on the night, I thought had a very effective outing, even though he was starting to get frustrated by being kicked all over the park. And one of the irritating aspects of the EFL's Carabao Cup is the, at times, inconsistent refereeing, in this case from John Busby. But if we had imagined an Emmy Buendia goal in this game, I'm not sure it would have come from a broken play type deflected cross where he rose in the air like a salmon coming out of a waterfall. I found watching this back, this was outrageous from Emmy Buendia, who's probably one of the smallest guys on the park at this stage of the game, and yet somehow he manages to get contact of the ball as it was still kind of rising. A physics-defying glance that just looped over the outstretched fingers of the Wycombe goalkeeper, and obviously this changed the game. Buendia was also prominent in the EFL trophy with a couple of goals. So with that and this, he's getting his confidence, his timing, his scoring touch back, and that is fantastic because we're going to need him. And the number 1 big moment that defined Wycombe 1, Villa 2, Duran's dot shot. I was just saying how John Busby was rather inconsistent in this game. At times he let a lot, if not everything, go, and then all of a sudden he would start to get particular somehow. And on this particular instance, without the help of an assistant closer to where the incident occurred, I felt like he might have been just guessing a little bit, because if he looks back and sees the replay again, he might blush, because I don't see a whole lot of contact there against Big John. And you do wonder sometimes, because Duran was in a lot of tussles and tangles. He was lobbying for a lot of fouls that weren't being given. I just wonder if over the course of a game, the referee gets worn down like with body blows, and finally he says, "Fine, penalty." And as fate would have it, his expertly dispatched penalty would turn out to be the game-winning goal again. That's 4 game-winning goals in all competitions this season, 5 goals in all comps this season. And I think it was really healthy and valuable for Big John to be relied upon from the start. That's great experience. And I also respect a guy madly who says, "No, Emi Buendia, I'm taking the penalty," before tucking it away and giving us a 2-0 lead. The reason why we should all be extremely excited about Aston Villa right now is there are a lot of things that we probably didn't expect. We could talk about Yuri Tielemans and Amadou Onana, but you have to talk about what John Duran is doing for us right now, because nobody would have predicted that 2 months ago. The Sill Hill Brewery star performer goes to, bit of a wild card, Aidan Borland, one of many Villa Academy graduates to make their senior debut on Tuesday. Do you know he completed 21 of 22 passes? That's 95%. 1 accurate long ball, 1 clearance, 1 recovery. He played 28 minutes and had 27 touches right in the middle of it all, never hid, always brave, sharp, and those 28 minutes may have literally inflated his market value by another 100,000 quid. I'm not kidding, because he's only 17, the young Scotsman. I can't even pour him one of Sill Hill's magnificent craft creations. Instead, I'll take this opportunity to talk about the Oktoberfest activities coming up at the new tap room, which starts with a visit by Bayern Munich, the Kings of Bavaria, where Oktoberfest originated. The tap room will be open at 3 o'clock that afternoon, and you need to have ausgezeichnet Bier, nicht? Prost! Just a 25-minute stroll to Villa Park from there. And then from the 11th to the 13th of October, all sorts of entertainment and activities. In fact, I'll put a link to tickets for those activities in the description of these videos. So, from the Chair Boys to the Tractor Boys. And incredibly, those 2 clubs were in the same division not that long ago. A trip to Portman Road in the cards on Sunday. And as a romantic nostalgic, I have to tell you, something about Ipswich Town being in the Premier League feels just right to me. There's strong 1980-81 vibes going on right now, which is one of the reasons why I am legitimately in the Aston Villa is a title contender camp. And as of today, there is no argument. They are, as of today, title contenders. What matters, of course, is that they still are in May. But that didn't get hurt with Rodri's season-ending injury. We know what Man City's record is without him. It's not very good, not to mention what kind of outcome from those charges. The key for Aston Villa is our own player, I don't even want to say the word absenteeism, and how that plays out this season, because that honestly could be the difference with us being in the mix. I say it all the time that there are no easy points in the Premier League and that every point will count. And I do like what Ipswich Town did in this off-season to address a little bit of the here and now to add to what they already had, which was a red-hot team that just ran through the leagues, but also thinking a little bit to the future. Players like Omari Hutchinson, Liam Delap. I loved Jack Clark at Sunderland, but they also have that Sammy Smolix who could score goals, and then Calvin Phillips. We also have this history, I don't know if you've noticed over the past few years, of struggling away at newly promoted sides. Sheffield United last year notwithstanding, but Bournemouth and Watford do come to mind in recent memory. And we won't have John McGinn. Plus, this game occurs 3 days before the aforementioned little casual kickabout with Bayern Munich the following Wednesday. So squad rotation is going to be a little bit complex, potentially, for this Sunday. And then saving the most recent information for last, our 4th-round Carabao Cup draw is against Crystal Palace at Villa Park in the week commencing October 28th. Round 4 is the gateway to the quarterfinals. Now we have Bournemouth at VP on the 26th of October, and then we're at Spurs the following Sunday, November 3rd. The week after, we're in Champions League play again at Club Brugge. But as it stands right now, we're still in on the quadruple. And for right now, that's all that matters. Until the trip to East Anglia, be well, and as always, up the mighty Villa.